Howdy friends, welcome back to the channel. Today is an exciting day for me because I get to go to one of my favorite places in the world, Moab, Utah yet again. On the way there, on the way back, maybe even while we're there, I'm hoping to be able to get some photography. And I'm excited that I have three lenses to try along the way, to experiment with, to give me different focal lengths and different looks, and to stretch my creativity. This is not the first time I've done a road trip like this. I'll post a link to a playlist so you can see the many times that I've gone on road trips with lenses. I should call it the Road Trip with Lenses series or something like that. And this time it should be called the Road Trip with TTArtisan lenses, because I have three lenses that TTArtisan sent me to try out. I get excited whenever they reach out and say, hey, do you want to try a new lens? Because it gives me an excuse to get out there. And I need those, desperately need excuses to get out and photograph lately, because life is just so crazy and so busy, and sometimes it's nice to have an excuse like this to get out, to be creative and to experiment and see what lenses can bring to the art. I don't recommend always doing that, but sometimes it's nice for just a little bit of an injection of creativity, and also gives me an excuse to create a video, not just photography for myself, but video content for you that hopefully you enjoy. So yeah, three lenses. Let's talk about these lenses. I don't actually know a lot about them. I haven't researched them, and that's my new approach. Take it or leave it. Some people don't like that I'm not as researchy these days, that I just give you my impressions, and it's mostly about the journey. This is just an excuse to get out there. So this first lens will start at the wide end on the Fuji X. These are two Fuji X lenses. This is a 7.5 f2 from TTArtisan. And like I said, I don't know a ton about it. I don't even know if it's fisheye or not. I assume it is because of that really crazy wide field of view. But I have no problem with that. I took a fisheye out last time I went on a photo adventure, and that was a lot of fun. Oh yeah, if that's not a fisheye, I don't know what is. So this will be fun. I really appreciate the way that fisheye affects how you compose a scene. Not a lot of people use it unless for very special circumstances, very tight architectural circumstances, or extremely wide landscape photography scenes, or like BMX photography. But I'm excited to use this. I get excited about shaping streets, concrete, signs, trees, and watching the way that straight lines that are normally straight get curved and wrapped around subjects, and gives you so many cool ways to frame. I just really love it. I've done several videos now with fisheye lenses, and I look back at those photos with a great deal of fondness. So we'll see what I'm able to come up with the 7.5mm f2, which is also exciting. Pretty small aperture fisheye, so that'll be fun. The biggest challenge I think we'll have, and that I've seen before with more shallow depth of field fisheye photography, is that it's difficult to see what's actually in focus and what's not, unless you're shooting with higher apertures and you just get everything in focus, which is pretty easy to do, and easier to do if you want to photograph that way. When you've got a shallow depth of field, though, I notice that the focus peaking will show more in focus than really is. So that can be tricky, and I've something to be aware of. This lens, though, from what I feel already, it feels what I'm used to from TTArtisan, which is hefty metal, not cheap plasticky feeling. I've been impressed with what TTArtisan is able to bring to bear as far as build quality itself and the feel. They always have a really nice focus throw and lens and aperture ring feel. Although this one is a little bit stiff. Could use for a little bit, maybe a little bit of some loosening. But I mean, other than that, I'm never disappointed with the build of TTArtisan. Image quality you know, you see a spectrum of image quality with a lot of their lenses, but in general, as I've said before, I never have a problem with what they offer. There is also this. I do not know what this is. It says ND1. Oh, it's an ND filter. Wow, interesting. Okay. All right. I guess I should have researched this, but apparently, wow, that's cool. It looks like you can place an ND filter over the inner element. My, oh my. I don't think I've ever seen that on a Fuji lens before. If you guys have seen that, let me know in the comments. I haven't. I didn't even know that this sort of capability exists. That's awesome. I really like that. So we've got a dark, just one ND filter. We'll have to give that a try. Find an excuse to do some longer exposures on this trip, but that's my only worry would be scratching that inner element or accidentally touching it while I'm putting this on. The other thing is if this gets dirty on and you're putting it over the inner element, I believe that will create more image artifacts than were it to be over the obviously the outer element. But with where this is a fisheye, it makes a lot of sense to put the ND on the inside. So very cool, TTArtisan. Well played. We'll see how that goes. And like I said, TTArtisan did send me these, but hopefully you guys know me by now and trust me enough to know that I'm gonna tell you exactly what I think. I'm not. Whenever people send me stuff, I always say the same thing. Yeah, sure, you can send it if you want. It doesn't mean I'll say nice things about your product. So, and that's TTArtisan knows that about me. They still send it anyway, and in general. I guess that's worked out for them and me, so because they keep sending me their stuff to look at. So the next thing we've got is the other Fuji X lens. This is the 40mm macro lens. This has been out a while, I believe. This is a 40mm 2.8 for the Sony system, I think, and maybe a couple others. It's not a new lens. The lens itself is not new. But for Fuji, I guess it is. I understand that it's just barely came out for Fuji mount. So I love me some macro photography, but I typically like wide macro. And I try to use the 16mm 1:4, which doesn't give you a true macro. It's like a 1:4 ratio. But I still like it better than shooting with some of the other macro lenses. I like the 80mm 2.8 Fuji. That's a beautiful lens, but for me personally, I don't like the compression as much, and I don't do the macro photography in the traditional sense with like bugs and smaller things. It's usually details and it's wider, but we'll give it a shot. This is an interesting looking lens. It deviates significantly from the form factor of other TTArtisan lenses by virtue of the fact that it is a macro lens. So the lens itself has, as you focus, you're going to see quite a bit of throw here. External focus, obviously, it has to be able to get to that 1:1 image ratio, meaning that the size of what you're focused on is the same size on the sensor. So that's how close you can focus to the object. So that's cool. This is true macro. There are not a lot of lenses for Fuji that provides a 1:1 ratio, so reproduction ratio, that is. So this does, and that's awesome. And we'll try it for that, but also just use it for some of those longer shots, a little bit more telly shots. Because this gives more of like I don't know what is like a 63 millimeter focus or field of view, I guess. So that'll be fun. We'll try that out extensively. I suspect we'll use this lens probably more than the fisheye, in fact. So that'll be fun. The next lens is something I didn't even know that TTArtisan was working on, had in the works. Unboxing this also for the first time. This is a GFX lens. Hopefully the first of many. I don't. Maybe they already have some others on the docket. I'm not actually, again, not sure. But this is the 11mm 2.8 Again, not even sure if this is fisheye or not. It is obviously really wide. I'm guessing it is fisheye based on the shape of it as I'm pulling it out here though. Some of you guys watching these videos know more about these lenses than I do. I'm okay with that. Yeah, there it is. So 11mm 2.8 fisheye for GFX. Really excited about this. Really excited that TTArtisan is going to start creating lenses for GFX because, as we all know, those lenses are expensive. In fact, the only lens I have right now that I use, and I use my GFX all the time, but the only lens I shoot is the 80mm 2.8 Mamiya Secor lens for a Mamiya 645 system, which was affordable. And I absolutely love this lens. I do not need autofocus, and this lens is great and excellent. So, but I've missed occasionally having access to wider field of view with the GFX. I haven't had a chance or had the money to get anything wider. So here we go. Now I do. Maybe this is a little too wide, but it'll be certainly fun. So I might get similar photos with both fisheye lenses on the XT4 as well as my GFX and put them side by side. Compare what these two lenses look like a little bit. But I'm super excited to give this a shot. And you know, as far as build, again, actually, I'm a little bit slightly disappointed with this one compared to the X version. This one's aperture ring is right up against the base of the GFX camera, and it is clipless, which I don't really understand why they would deviate from the awesome clicked aperture that they've got with the other fisheye. And let's see if we, yeah, clicked aperture here with 40mm. Not a fan of clickless, even though I do a lot of video. I very rarely feel like I need a clickless aperture even for video. I mean, I don't change aperture mid-video very often. So that bothers me, and I don't really like where it is. And what else? I mean, I guess it just doesn't feel quite as nice, surprisingly, as the Fuji X, which I would expect this one to be maybe a little bit nicer since it's for GFX. But the other thing is that it looks like there's no fancy ND filter for this one like there was for that 7.5. So I don't know, interesting decisions. Feels a little like, I don't know, you'd think that they would bust out ideas like the ND filter on the inner element for the GFX rather than the X, but it is what it is. It's like I just barely learned about something and I'm already complaining when I don't have it. But enough complaining, enough talk. Let's get out there on the road and take some photos. But first, a word from our sponsor. This Black Friday through Cyber Monday, KEH.com is offering a 10% off site-wide sale. Those of you who shop regularly at KEH.com like I do will know that sales like these don't come along very often. So if you're getting excited about these TTArtisan lenses that I'm talking about in this video, or even some of the typically extremely expensive native Fuji lenses on offer, this is your moment. And in addition to these deals, KEH is increasing their 180-day warranty to a 365-day warranty, which is only available until December 31st, 2021. A warranty on pre-owned gear? Yes, please. It doesn't get any better than that. Once again, we'd like to thank KEH for sponsoring this video, and we hope you'll take advantage of this opportunity by using the code Andrew10 at checkout. Blessed with one kind. The game doesn't. Chris, this is like a.
The glass is so far in.
How do you put that on? You put some chewing gum on it.
That's where we've got to be very careful, because if you end up running around.
We are now finished biking. That was fun. Moab was great. Doing the race was, participating in the race was great. Ander, my son, did very well. Came away with a medal. Great trip, but it's not over yet because now the real photography begins. On the way home, we are stopping by several small towns to participate in my favorite type of photography, which is, of course, rural photography. To use these 3 lenses, not just the 40mm, but we also try to get some macro, some textures with that 40mm, but see if we can get some fisheye as well. So that is the plan. We're stopped here in our first small town that I've never been to before, called Redmond, with my first subject, this building over my shoulder here. So yeah, take some shots there and see what else we can find. So the thing about this lens I didn't realize until my first shot that you just barely saw is that the image circle gets cropped significantly with the GFX. I didn't know that would happen, and I don't like it. Don't like it at all, really. So I don't know if I'm gonna be shooting with this much more. Maybe just to get a few shots so you can see them, but I mean, what's the point of this sensor if you have to crop so much for that fisheye? Yeah, not a fan. So take a few more, but mostly I'll probably just stick with the X here, with the fisheye lens that's on here that I'm shooting with right now, and then the 40mm. Found another building that I like, so we'll photograph that now. So in looking at these photos after the fact, I realize I still get more megapixels even after cropping to the size of the image circle on the GFX devices than we do with the Fuji X devices with the 7mm f2 lens, getting us more of what we might expect to get with a typical full frame sensor after the crop. However, I still have issues taking photos this way, as it's hard to compose a photo in camera with that full image circle prior to crop, and it makes this lens one I probably wouldn't use for fun because it just makes composition so hard. But the image quality seems really decent, and I wouldn't hesitate to use this in a real estate or other utilitarian situation, just not for fun. Love this building, how it's all on a tilty angle, but it might not be the right time of day to take this shot, and I can't get close with the fisheye anyway, so we'll just take it with a 40mm. See if we can get a shot that's decent. I love shooting with fisheye lenses. I feel like it's an angle of view that is too often ignored by serious and amateur photographers alike, but there really is nothing quite like it for learning to compose a complex scene. So much more is in focus and so much more is in frame. I love the challenge it is to compose all the things. But at the same time, I love how straight lines all become curved lines and things tend to wrap around your subject, making it simultaneously challenging, but also in many ways simpler to bring a complicated scene together. On the other hand, that 40mm macro lens was also a lot of fun shooting with. While it provides that straight-on compression I really like in rural settings, it's also a lot of fun for being able to walk right up and get that 1:1 reproduction ratio to capture textures and wildlife. All right, well, I love love this against like the skylight and everything. So much in the field of view. It's fun to try to deal with all of those compositional elements. And while I haven't got to shoot the fisheye as much, because it's actually really hard to find the right thing to photograph in these environs, I am happy with the few shots that I've gotten. So finished at a couple small towns and about ready to finish our drive home. But I saw this really beautiful bus off the side of the road, so gonna sneak over there. I can't tell if it's private property or not, but I think I might just risk a quick little jog out there to photograph this bus, try to get shots with both lenses. But I've been loving photographing with that 40mm. I like that it shoots at a nice focal length for architecture without me having to go too far back, but still has a little bit of the squared up compression that I like. But then I can jog towards my subject and get in close and get those little textures and details. And that 1:1, I haven't even got quite to that 1:1 with the macro that I've tried so far. It's so fun to shoot with that little lens. So that lens, surprisingly, I think is a lens that I will probably want to have in my kit, because it's just an inexpensive way to get into macro, and that's probably the one I would say, man, like there's no reason not to have that, especially if you're not the type that does macro all the time. You don't want to bust out the big bucks for that 80mm Fuji lens. But you want something that'll work and get you that 1:1 ratio. I'd say that's a no-brainer. Get that 40mm lens, because I haven't looked at the computer yet. I can't speak for the image quality. I did notice some flaring that I didn't like I mentioned earlier. But other than that, it does seem pretty good on the back of the camera. I'll reserve final judgment for when we look on the computer. But so far, it's been a lot of fun to shoot with. So I'm gonna photograph this bus and see if there's anything else on the drive home that catches my eye. But I do think we're wrapping up a little bit. But so far it's been a fun photo session with these two lenses. Supposed to be 3, but I kind of quit on that GFX lens because I'm not a fan of that crop. Yeah, sorry about that. That was a little bit of a buzzkill. Hopefully nobody came to this video specifically to watch a review of that lens, because I don't know. Anyway, let's finish up this session. So the hardest thing about shooting with this fisheye lens, looking through the back of the camera here, the difficulty is your own shadow getting in it, because in these rural environs, especially the severe clear lighting, which I'm used to shooting in, I love shooting in, I love getting everything nice and just blasted with the sun, shooting full on with the sun behind me. It's my favorite way to shoot in rural environs. The problem is with this fisheye, it's really hard not to get your shadow involved. It's impossible to just compose it out, or it's very difficult. So that's the thing I've been battling the most out here, and probably the only reason why I wouldn't want to actually use a fisheye on a regular basis with this type of photography normally, other than just special occasions. But, we work around it. Now with this 40mm, another thing that you should note is look at that focus breathing. When I zoom in and then zoom way out, crazy amount of focus breathing. So not a problem for photography, but if you were thinking of using this lens for video, I probably wouldn't, because it is so apparent with just a slight tweak of that focus dial. It's the crazy amount of focus breathing you'll get. So not a great video lens. That shouldn't be too big a surprise for anyone though. On the other hand, what a fun lens to shoot with in a rural setting, both for its macro capability, but also for being able to move back and get some nice squared up shots of rural decay. But that's all I was able to get in this session. I really hope you enjoyed coming along for yet another photo adventure with me. Remember to do good with your cameras, and we'll talk to you again real soon.